Hello students, I welcome you in the ITLS Academy. Today our topic is very interesting. The environment. Everything which surrounds us makes our environment. So an organism is surrounded by many living and non-living things. So the environment is the aggregate of all those things and set of conditions which directly or indirectly influence not only the life of organisms but also the communities at a particular place. Where an organism lives is known as biosphere. It involves lithosphere, hydrosphere and atmosphere related for soil, water and air respectively. Habitat is the physical environment in which an organism lives. Actually, habitat address an organism. There are many habitats like mountains, grasslands, polar regions, wetlands, rainforest, desert, urban areas and sea. Ecosystem is the functional unit of nature where many physical and biological factors interact to each other and influence to each other, and they are linked together by nutrient cycles and energy flow. The forest, grassland and desert are some examples of terrestrial ecosystem, while aquatic ecosystems are pond, lake, wetland, river, estuaries. Crop field and aquarium are man-made or synthetic ecosystems. The environmental conditions which influence the life and development of plants are grouped into abiotic and biotic factors. Abiotic factors, also known as climatic factors. The study of climatic factors is known as climatology. The first important factor is light. The sunlight mainly involves visible light, in which red and blue light are effective in performing photosynthesis. In the photosynthesis, plant absorb carbon dioxide from air and water from the soil to synthesize glucose and release oxygen. Plants have pigments to trap the sunlight. Light also influences the growth, flowering and fruiting. You also studied about short day plants, long day plants, day neutral plants, phototropism, etc. Frost results in the freezing the soil moisture and kill the plant. Snow accumulation breaks the branches or even uproot the trees. We see the factor temperature is a very important factor. At high temperature, the protoplasmic proteins denature and many biochemical processes like respiration and photosynthesis are affected. On the basis of range of temperature, the plants are classified into megatherms, mesotherms, microtherms, hechiotherms, etc. from high to low temperature, and the plants growing at very low temperature are called bryophytes. This is the diagram which shows the penetrance of light in the seawater, that is the photic zone. The dark zone is called aphotic zone and at the base is the benthic zone. Here in the graph, you show the relationship between mean annual temperature and mean annual precipitation for the formation of different types of biomes. As we see in the left side, a red pyramid, that is a desert. In the desert, annual mean precipitation is very low and temperature is very high. So we can say the annual precipitation and annual temperature are responsible for formation of different types of biomes like tundra, northern coniferous forest, Mediterranean grassland, desert, savanna, temperate deciduous forest, and tropical forests. Most important, the soil, also known as edaphic factor, it involves both organic and inorganic matter. It also inhabits different types of microorganisms in it. There are different level of soil, the O, A, B, and C, on the basis of inorganic and organic matter. Topographic factors like altitude, steepness of the slope, exposure of slopes, and direction of mountain chains also affect vegetation. If we see from the base to top of mountain, the distribution is tropical, temperate, taiga, and tundra. Wind. High wind velocity causes soil erosion, breakage, and uprooting of trees. Most of the pollutants are dispersed through the medium of air. Wind do harm is blossom trees because it prevents working of insects. Wind modifies the humidity. Dry winds cause dwarfing of plants. Wind help in pollination, dispersal of fruits and seed, and prevent frost damage. If the area subjected to strong winds, the leaves of the plant become small and rolled, and these plants develop as an overall shape that offers resistance. The second group is the biotic components, all living beings, the plants, animal, microbes, etc. They are categorized in producers and consumers. They form the trophic level. Producers are always at the base of pyramid, and then the primary consumer, on which secondary consumers are dependent, and on which tertiary consumers are dependent. Primary producers are autotrophs because they have pigments, trap the sunlight and perform the photosynthesis. They involve green plants, certain bacteria, and algae. They are not swimmers. They are known as planktons, like phytoplanktons. Consumers are heterotrophs. They may be primary, secondary, or tertiary consumer. All are heterotrophs because they do not have pigment and they cannot synthesize their own food. They are further categorized into macro and micro consumers. Macro consumers involve primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumers. Primary consumers are herbivores, which feed on plants, the sheep, rabbit. Secondary consumer feed on primary consumers, that wolves, dogs, snake. Tertiary consumers feed on secondary consumers, and they involve lion, snake. And the animals which feed on both plants and animals are called omnivores, and they are man, bear, and pig. Micro consumers are saprotrophs, like bacteria and fungi, which obtain energy from the dead organic matter, the detritus, by synthesizing and secreting enzymes. Earthworms are the detrivores because they chop up detritus. When we see the population interactions between two species, in the mutualism, both species are benefited from each other. In commensalism, one species is benefited while another one is not affected, neither harmed nor benefited. In predation, one species is benefited, another one is harmed. Also in parasitism, one species is benefited and another one is harmed. The difference is the terminology that the negative species in predation is called prey, and in parasitism it is called host. Host not generally killed for food. The parasite absorb or suck the food, while in predation they kill eat their food. Amensalism involves the interaction between two species in which one species is harmed and another one is not affected. First of all, very important, the mutualism. In the figure, you are seeing that a relationship between a flower and a bee. A plant is benefited by the activity of pollination and bee get the food and nectar. It is also very important to understand the concept of co-evolution. A particular flower is pollinated by a particular species of insect. So if one species become extinct, another one is already extinct. Lichen is very studied example. It is the mutual relationship between algae and fungi. Algae make food and fungi absorb the nutrients and perform the sexual reproduction. We know that mutualism is a subheading of symbiosis. Symbiosis is the relationship between two species where both species are benefited, but in mutualism, when both species are separated from each other, no one survives. But in proto-cooperation, both species survive. Competition. Competition may be interspecific, means between two species, or intraspecific, within a species. And competition is always for food or space. The Gauss principle says when the competition is between two species, one species is excluded from that area. Only dominant species survive. Mark Arthur observed a solution of this problem. That was the resource partitioning in the warbler birds. The different types of warblers which chose different parts of a plant to a tree to live. We can learn from this example. Predation. When predator eats or kills a prey for food, the most important thing to learn from predation, we can learn the concept of biological control. Control the population of any organism. Parasitism. Feeding on another stable. One species make their own food, but another species become parasite to absorb that ready-made food. In the figure, you are seeing the Cuscuta as an example of stem parasite. Commensalism. Commensalism is an example where one species is benefited and another one is not affected. The clownfish get protection by sea anemone from their enemies, and ergot get the insects with the help of cattle. Amensalism. You are seeing a Petri plate that Penicillium species checking the growth of bacteria Staphylococcus. So here Staphylococcus species is getting harmed while Penicillium is not affected. In a nature, you can see different types of food chains. There may be herbivorous food chain, there may be decomposing food chains. But in a food chain, as we see, the deer eats grass and the lion eats the deer. There are different trophic levels. 3, 4, 5 trophic levels in different food chains. But in nature, actually there is not a existence of a separate food chain. There is always existence of a food web when a particular species can be placed in different trophic levels. This is the ecological pyramid. At the base, there are producers, then herbivores, carnivores, secondary carnivore, and apex predator. The pyramids are of three types on the basis of numbers, biomass, energy. The pyramid of energy is always upright. According to the 10% law of Lindemann, the next trophic level only 10% energy is transferred. In the pyramid of biomass, all of the pyramids are upright except the pyramid of pond, that is inverted. The biomass of zooplankton is always high than the biomass of phytoplanktons. The pyramid of number is always upright except an example of a tree. So in this lecture, we understand that we are surrounded by different factors. They are living, they are non-living. So from here, we are assuming that the human activities are responsible for climate change, desertification, land degradation, freshwater decline, biodiversity loss, and also the ecosystem functions, and also stratospheric ozone depletion. And in return, these harmful changes affect our life. So these points we will learn in further lectures. This was everything about the environment. Thank you.